Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am back with another true crime video, and today we are going to be doing the story of Hope Zende and Warona Zinde. If you're new to the channel, I try and do these videos often, so please do check out the playlist. I've done a couple already and I will be doing more in the near future. Now with that said, and without wasting any more time, let's dive into today's video. Today's video takes us to Mamelodi, a township northeast of Pretoria, and subsequently we will end up in Northwest Province, just 45 minutes outside of Johannesburg, in a beautiful resort town named Hartbeespoort that is fondly known as Harties. Hope Zende was born in Mamelodi on the 15th of March 1966 to mother Audrey Bella Zinde and the late Langa Moses Zinde. She's one of 5 children and had 2 sisters and 2 brothers. Hope is described by friends and family as someone who was extremely strong-willed and strong-minded and very independent from a very young age. At school, she was an overachiever and also was very passionate about debating, to the extent of which she went on to win several awards and also many national competitions. After completing matric, she went to the University of Limpopo. Hope centered her life around education, to the extent of which, after completing in Limpopo, she went on to study at numerous other institutions, including the University of Witwatersrand as well as Siena University in Italy. Hope's life was on the up and up, and in the year 1991, she started working at the SABC1 as a junior journalist. It was around this time when she met a then young man, Dr. Lebohang Manoto. The two immediately started a relationship, and just 2 years later, they welcomed a son and named him Warona Zende. Mark would go on to be Hope Zende's one and only child. Unfortunately, things did not work out between Hope and the doctor, and not too long after Mark was born, the couple broke up and they would continue a co-parenting relationship. Dr. Lebohang went on to marry someone else. As much as romantically things weren't really going well for Hope, but when it came to her profession, things were skyrocketing. She continued to climb the ranks at the SABC and went from being a junior journalist to being a writer and producer of many current affairs programs at the SABC. In the year 1995, after Nelson Mandela had won the elections, she started traveling with him to Mozambique on state affairs. And thereafter, when she returned, she got back to the SABC and started doing Good Morning South Africa. Hope was doing exceptionally well professionally, but was doing even better as a parent. At this point, she had settled at being a single parent and loved every moment of parenting Warona Zinde. Friends close to Hope have stated that Mark was an easy child, and just like his mother and father, who was a doctor, he was academically gifted and did well from primary school. Mark and Hope moved to Harties and moved into a luxury golf estate called Pecanwood Estate. Mark also enrolled at Pecanwood College, which is one of the best co-ed schools in Harties, with amazing facilities and qualified and dedicated educators to match. Hope always wanted only the best for her son and went over and above to provide this for him. Luckily, financially, she was well off. At this point, she had moved from being an anchor to being a board member of the SABC. She was later appointed a Pan-African board director and later moved to PRASA, the rail agency of South Africa, where she served as a general manager. Hope Zende had done well for herself, and it showed in the kind of life that she was able to provide for her son. Hope loved her son so much and enjoyed documenting their life together on social media. She'd often post images of them going out for lunch together or going shopping or just lounging around the house watching TV. She really loved being a mother, and it showed. Fortunately, Mark made it very easy for Hope to mother him because he was a very good kid and did very well at school, both academically and in sports. He played basketball and also played for the first team rugby team. In matric, Warona Zende was head boy of the school and went on to pass his matric with 2 distinctions. Naturally, Hope was very proud of her son, and just before he went to varsity, she gifted him with a Mercedes-Benz. Now, Mark didn't want to go too far from his mother, so he opted to go to Pretoria, which is just 45 minutes away from Harties. He enrolled at the Varsity College Pretoria to study towards a BCom degree. Now, Hope also bought Mark an apartment in Pretoria so he could be close to school and also so that he would not be sharing in university dorms. Hope was pretty proud of the privileges she was able to afford her child. You could tell from the pictures that she would post when she went to visit him in his apartment. Pictures such as this one captioned, "Leaving his flat." On weekends, Mark enjoyed traveling back home to Harties to enjoy his mother's cooking. He'd also take time off to study while he was there. Hope loved that Mark enjoyed coming back home, and she would post pictures of him while he was studying and caption it with Mr. Man studying in the background while listening to music. She went on to say things like she actually used to do the same thing and the matter would just land in her medulla. She was really proud of the young man she was raising, but unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse. Mark started being withdrawn and completely stopped communicating and started displaying what they dubbed as bizarre behavior. Now, after little investigation, unfortunately, Hope found out that her one and only child was heavily into substances, and she immediately took him to rehab. Fortunately, after a couple of weeks, Vista Clinic was able to assist him and he got back rehabilitated. Now, the decision was taken that he would move back into the estate with his mother so that she could be in a position to monitor him for a while before he went back to his normal life. Things went well, and for the next 2 years, he would do fairly well, to the extent of which the duo would be seen out and about attending Hope's events. Unfortunately, in early 2016, Mark relapsed, and even harder this time around. He was doing crystal, and his grandmother would later state that it was like he was losing his mind. Hope was at a complete loss and would ask friends and colleagues to help her cover her child in prayer, and God must please lead Mark into the right direction because demons were troubling him. At this point, he was way worse than he had ever been before. He would lock himself in his room, he wouldn't bath for days, and he was extremely aggressive and was a danger not just to himself but potentially everyone else too. Hope started the process of looking for a rehab for him yet again, but unfortunately this time, 23-year-old Mark Warona Zinde was just not interested. They were able to take him to go see a doctor who diagnosed him with severe depression with psychotic features, which could have been contributed to his use of substances. Now, on the weekend of the 3rd of September, Hope decided to go to Mamelodi to visit her mother. She spent the whole weekend there, leaving Mark by himself in Harties. She probably did this because she needed time away from all the pressures and also wanted to seek some advice from her family. The weekend was said to have been beautiful, although it had the heavy moments because they had so much to discuss regarding the matter at hand. On Monday, the 5th of September 2016, Hope drove back to Harties to her son. The family believes that when she arrived back, she possibly met a very high mark from the crystal that he was taking. It is believed that Hope might have revisited the conversation about rehab, and Mark would have just refused to listen to this. And this is when the police believe that Mark took a 10 kg dumbbell and struck Hope with it on her head. And it is believed that she might have possibly lost her life almost immediately. The incident is said to have happened in the living area, and Mark would have then pulled her mother from the living area all the way to the garage. And this is where his mother's SUV and his Mercedes-Benz were parked. He then went on to open the boot of the SUV and stuffed his 50-year-old mother in the boot and went back inside the house. Mark then went on to do very minimum cleaning, to the extent of which there was blood everywhere. And for the next few days, Mark continued living in the house like absolutely nothing happened. Meanwhile, Hope's friends and her mother were trying to call her and reach her and were not able to do so. Mark was also not answering his phone. And on Wednesday, just 2 days after the incident, the helper came. Now, she normally came every Wednesdays. She had her own keys. So she came in the door and Mark was upset to see her. She would later state that Mark pulled her with the collar of her dress outside the house and told her to leave and never come back. Obviously, very surprised by this, she tried to call her employer Hope, but unfortunately her phone was off, and this is when she decided that she would call Hope's mother so that at least she knows what's going on in the house. And immediately when they heard this, they decided that no ways, they are going to now drive from Mamelodi to Harties to try and find out what's going on, because they hadn't been able to reach Hope for a couple of days at this point. And now what the helper was saying was very alarming. So Hope's mother and Hope's sister drove from Mamelodi to Harties to try and find out what was going on. On arrival, Mark also refused to open for them. And that is when they actually noticed some blood stains on the door, and this is when they immediately called the police. The police arrived. Mark had no choice but to open, and when they entered, it was very easy for them to follow the trail of the blood, which was still there and very visible, all the way to the garage. And that is when they opened the boot of the SUV, and unfortunately they met a lifeless Hope. As they were searching the house, that's when they found the 10 kg dumbbell, which still had a lot of blood on it. They also searched Mark, who was found with a substantial amount of substances with him. To say the family was broken is an understatement. The police called for backup and forensics were also called. Mark was taken to the police station where he was later arrested for taking his mother's life. Although the family was broken, they took a decision to support Mark because they knew that this is what Hope would have wanted. Hope was laid to rest the following week. Now, although Mark was not able to come to the funeral because he was arrested, his cousin read a eulogy from him and he was included in the obituary as a loving son. Hope's friends and family reiterated the love Hope had for her son, and over again during the proceedings, they reiterated how he was going to be supported. A few days after the funeral, Mark applied for bail. Hope's mom was there to support him. She also stated that he could move in with her should he be given bail. Mark's father was also present during the proceedings and also offered himself as an option where he could move. Mark Warona Zinde was ultimately given 10,000 rands bail. His bail conditions included reporting to the police station periodically and also not using any substances and randomly being tested for such substances. It also obviously included not committing any further offenses. The family posted bail and he moved into Vereeniging with his father and stepmother. Unfortunately, it wasn't even 2 months, and on November 6, while Dr. Lebu, his father, was sitting and reading his newspaper, Mark struck him with a glass and then started stifling him. Fortunately, the wife heard the commotion and immediately started running towards them to try and help. Now, Mark started doing the same thing to her, and luckily together they were able to overpower Mark. Obviously, knowing what he was capable of, they decided that they were left with no other choice but to report him and actually open charges against him, and that was when his bail was revoked. Mark was back in the custody of the state. However, his family, especially his grandmother, believed that Mark was sick and was not doing these things because of his own will, but rather he was pushed by everything that was underlying. They said that they could not believe that he could stand trial, let alone be found criminally liable of the things that he had done, and therefore they pushed that he be taken for an evaluation. Now, though a couple of times it came back saying that he was fit to stand trial, they kept insisting that he be checked out again and again. Eventually, he was declared mentally ill with schizophrenia and other personality disorders. Psychiatrists have also went on to say it's not uncommon for these type of disorders to come after heavy substance use over a long period of time. A panel of psychiatrists from Weskoppies Hospital found him to be a danger to himself and others and committed him to a mental institution. Mark will stay at the institution for the rest of his life or until a panel of psychiatrists are able to deem him healed. And with that said, we have come to the end of today's video. Please make sure to comment down below and let me know what you think about this particular case. And with that said, please stay safe out there. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.